Hi there, greetings and salutations. I am the suddenly and shockingly and in a very bitter fashion, slightly under the weather Jake Query. That is the guy that got me sick, Derek Schultz.
Feeling fine.
He was hacking and coughing all over the place last week. He said, don't worry
fine.
about it. I mean, it's no big deal. I don't know what happened. And here I am, 2 weeks from vacation, and if my vacation I spend it sick, then there's going to be hell hath no fury like you're going to see I do on Derek. Other than that, everything's great. You doing well?
Come at me, bro, and we'll see how much fury hath hell you bring me. The thing is, you interacted with lots of human beings.
None of them were sick.
You've gone to Pacers games.
No one's sick.
Yeah, not a single person at a Pacers game is sick? Okay.
No, they're not hacking all over the place like you.
You're like...
Most people, if they're sick, they have the common decency to say, I'm a little under the weather. I'm going to protect others. I'm going to think of my fellow man.
It took me a while to realize this, but I've realized this now because the two people that I spend the most time with in my life are you and my wife. And you guys are very similar in the fact that anything that ever befalls either of you, even if it has nothing to do with me at all, it's my fault.
Wait a minute.
Anything.
You spend 45 minutes a week around me, and
Yeah.
that falls into the top 2 people in your life?
Well, I mean, my son.
Like, you need to get friends, man.
Yeah, you know this. Well, it's different. I don't want to play the you don't have kids card, but it's different. Like, your interactions with your friends just kind of dwindle when you're in your 40s. I love my friends, and I have a great core group of guys, but I see them, if I see them once every 2 months, that's a lot.
Well, that's more than, you see me 45 minutes a week.
Yeah.
So if you see them in 2 months, when you're together with them in 2 months,
Yeah.
over the course of 2 months, you see me for a grand total of 3 hours. Grand total.
Yeah, but then we talk on the phone, so those
No.
are like 30 minutes a pop.
That is not accurate.
Sometimes we have lunch together.
Also
I mean,
not
you're my best. We're best friends, so that adds to the time together. It's not that outlandish to say that you are the person that I spend outside of my family the most time with.
See.
God, you hacking all over the mic? Jeez, don't get me sick.
The Colts got a win that kind of doesn't feel like a win over the Tennessee Titans over the weekend. Maybe it's because of the fact that it's Tennessee.
Yeah.
And they don't overly, scare you. But, Derek, I want you to be my barometer here. Okay? I don't want to be you're going to disagree with me on this probably. Maybe more recently, this is more true. But I try not to be like a sports conspiracy theorist about everything, right? I try not, but at the same time, I'm, to a fault maybe at times, I'm an overly critical thinker, and I just don't take things all the time at face value. I want to present to you something, and I want you to tell me, I want you to grade me A to F on how absurd it is.
Okay.
A being, no, that's plausible. F being, you are like totally out of your mind conspiracy theorist, okay? I found it peculiar that Anthony Richardson practiced over the course of the week, was trending towards being able to play. All indication was he was going to play. And at the 11th hour, he's listed as the emergency quarterback, and he does not play against the Tennessee Titans, and the Colts win the game. With Joe Flacco, who played okay.
Yeah.
And he played well against Jacksonville, even though it wasn't enough. But he played okay at Tennessee, and they win the game. Monday morning, before having gone through a practice, before having gone and seen other people on the field, before doing extensive throwing against the defense, Shane Steichen comes out and says, Richardson's our starter Sunday. And I thought, wait a minute. This year, by the Colts' admission, not mine, this year has been about the development of Anthony Richardson. If something happened overnight where suddenly he was cured and they knew he was going to be able to play in a week, that means either A, he was super close to being able to play and they held him out to do so, which means they're not comfortable letting him play unless he's 100%, which no quarterback in the NFL ever is. Or B, they actually looked at it and said, you know what? This isn't about the development of Anthony Richardson. It's about a division game, and we feel we have a better chance to win with Joe Flacco. So he is going to be our quarterback, and then we'll put Richardson back in.
How about I present to you option C? We made a mistake. I think that they realized that they're babying him. If you want me to give you my honest opinion, I think the Colts realized that they made a mistake by sitting him because of how it looked. It looked terrible.
Right.
It looked terrible for them to sit Richardson in that game. It made Richardson look weak.
You saw what I said, Derek.
It made them look like they were babying him.
The tweet that I sent was, here's the deal. If this year is about the development of Anthony Richardson and you're holding him out because he's not 100%, the reality is that no quarterback is 100% after week one. So at some point, he's going to have to learn to play through pain.
And you've got to see him at 80% or
Right.
90% or 70%. You have to. Because you got to know, we keep talking about this. You have to see Anthony Richardson in a variety of situations and a variety of contexts. And if you're too scared to do that, then my God, just give up now, right? If you're too scared to do that.
Here's the thing. 23 games. He's been on the roster for the Colts for 23 games. He has completed 4 of those.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
I am becoming more and more convinced, Derek, that what we are seeing, and I'm not saying the story ends the same way, but I told this story on the radio, and I'll tell it again. During the game on Sunday, I called Scott Hoke, longtime Indy sportscaster, and for a long time was the Pacers host, television-wise. And I called Scott Hoke, and we were talking about something totally different, and we began talking because the Colts game was on about the Colts and about Anthony Richardson. And he told a story about being at practice one day, and a young Jonathan Bender got the ball on the baseline, and he said, Jake, he took 2 dribbles from like the three-point line and took off and is going towards the rim and ducks underneath the rim and dunks it from the other side. And he said, Isaiah Thomas stopped practice and said, I want everyone to just stop and just absorb what you just witnessed. And Scott Hoke said, it was the most athletic basketball play I've ever seen in my life. And I said, that's why he got $52 million before he even played a game, because everybody knew if his body would cooperate, that he was different. Anthony Richardson is the football Jonathan Bender. He is enticing, and he is going to get all kinds of opportunity and things built for him because of the unique athleticism that he shows. But at some point, it has to start, and it's very early. Don't get me wrong. But at some point, they're going to have to see the weekly progression and production before you say, okay. And I know it sounds ridiculous to say that 1/4 of the way through year 2, we're already making final decisions on him. I get that. But they're not doing him correct. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying they're not doing him any favors here.
No, that's the thing. They're not doing him any favors. When you have Michael Pittman Jr. out there basically with like a broken back and he's making the game-winning touchdown catch, if I'm Anthony Richardson, I'm thinking to myself, man, this makes me look like a schlub.
Okay, now I will be a conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying this is the case. I don't think it's the case, but I think it's an interesting or fun is the wrong word, an interesting tidbit that could be approached. Do you think there's any coincidence that Michael Pittman Jr. went from looking like he was going to go on IR as Anthony Richardson was coming back into the mix, and then as Anthony Richardson was pulled out, suddenly Michael Pittman Jr. was able to play?
Why would you do that, though? If you were the Colts.
No. I'm talking about if you're Michael Pittman Jr.
Yeah.
If you're this is not the case with me, but I could see how somebody would make the argument that it appears as though Michael Pittman Jr. prefers to play with one quarterback versus another.
I mean, yeah, see, now I think we're getting into the conspiracy theory. I didn't
say I believe that.
I think Pittman Jr. wants to tough it out because he wants to tough it out. He's a tough dude.
Right.
I don't think I think that decision is completely independent of Richardson. But again, I just think the Colts did their quarterback a real disservice. They made him look like a weak schlub. They did. And I think that's why Steichen came back and was adamant on Monday morning, because they knew that they had to kind of save it. There was no reason why Anthony Richardson shouldn't have played on Sunday. None. No reason. Should have played. Should have played. And
maybe they thought Joe Flacco gave them a better chance to win the division.
This idea, though, again, this kind of goes back to this conversation. This idea that Flacco is more in a position to help them win, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. You know, Joe Flacco is a backup quarterback who gives you backup level results. He threw a horrific interception. You know, if Joe Flacco keeps starting against the worst team in the NFL every week, then yeah, I mean, you're going to keep winning like that. But the schedule's about to change here.
Right.
And I think, that's great that Joe Flacco threw all over the Jaguars. Guess who else has thrown all over the Jaguars? Everyone.
Here's the thing,
Everyone
Derek.
throws all over the Jaguars.
The thing is this. The Colts are 3-3, right?
They're in the playoffs. If the season ended today, they're in the playoffs.
And if you look at the teams that they would be contending against going into the year, I mean, they're in pretty good shape because they're having a better year and their forecast is better than Miami. They're having a better year and their forecast is better than the New York Jets.
Mm-hmm. The Bengals.
They're having a better year than the Bengals. And I know people are like, no, the Bengals, I still wouldn't rule them out because Joe Burrow.
Well, I'm not ruling them out,
Yeah, but they're 2-4.
Yeah.
They just barely beat the New York Giants.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
The Steelers, I mean, anybody that watches the Steelers knows that team's not any good.
Okay? The Chargers.
Yeah, who cares?
The Broncos.
Yeah. Bo Nix stinks.
The AFC literally is like
four teams.
It's like India. Yeah. You have this, when you studied caste systems when you were in school, you have this upper class that has 90% of the wealth, and then you have this huge portion of terrible poverty and people that are, it's very unfortunate, and very little middle class.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what the AFC is, right? You have like three teams that, Kansas City,
Baltimore, Houston, Buffalo,
and probably Houston and Buffalo.
Yeah.
And then
that's it.
And then you have a bunch of teams.
Yeah. Jaguars, Titans,
and like this
Patriots.
Four teams that are in the middle class, I guess, right?
Patriots are hopeless. The Colts are in a great spot. And with all the injuries, Jake, this hasn't been a fully – I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but let's face it, this has not been a fully healthy Colts
You're about
team.
to cough. You're about to cough. Again, you're scaling. Yeah, you are.
No, I'm
you're like,
completely
you start talking like this because you're holding off a cough.
Now that you said it, I'll let some out. Now that you said it, but that's actually not what it is at all. But you say cough, it's like a yawn. Like when you yawn, I yawn. If you say the word cough, then I'll start coughing. So I let that one out.
2 weeks?
You've got me sick. Now I'm re-sick.
I leave for vacation.
You have re-sickened me.
I leave for vacation.
You've re-sickened me.
2 weeks.
Let's talk, since so much of this season has been negative, look around the NFL. Everybody hates their team right now. Everybody. If you're a Vikings fan, you don't hate your team.
Kansas City?
Everyone else, well, yeah, okay. Everyone hates their team. Lions don't hate their team, right? But if you're talking like, I would say 20 of the 32 NFL fan bases right now absolutely despise their team. Ask a Jets fan about their team. Ask a Giants fan about their team. Ask a Browns fan about their team.
Those teams hate their team no matter what.
Well, fair.
Okay, Cowboys.
Yeah, their fans hate their team right
Cardinals.
now. Their two
any?
fans hate their team, yeah. I mean, everybody hates their team.
Saints?
So you got a division road win. Colts, remember, they had that stretch where they lost 5 in a row to the Titans. They've won 3 in a row now, including back-to-back years in Nashville. And the Titans stink. I'm not saying that they don't stink. But, you needed the defense to buck up. Colts defense stinks. But the final, after Tennessee opening drive, third quarter, right, that 3rd and 19, which is just the most ridiculous maddening play of the entire season, right? They're up 17-10. After that, 15 plays, 39 total yards. Punt, pick, punt, end of game. Pretty good, right? It's Will Levis and a really crappy Titans team, but that's good. That's good that they bucked up.
I'd like to know this. Why? Why? For the second time in like 3 games, why do the Colts on a goal line situation, what am I going to say?
Run it into a brick wall?
Why did they not? I'm going to go back to this. Draft night, 21, something like that. The Colts are drafting 4th, I think. Jim Irsay gets on the phone. They make the phone call public for people to hear. Quentin, man.
That's 2018. Can you believe that was that
2018?
long ago? Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Quentin, man, you're going to be like Hannah, like some of the great guards we've seen just bulldozing people, and you're going to be a great player for a long time. You're going to end up in Canton. All probably true. They make him the highest paid guard in NFL history. Mm-hmm. Goal line situation, run right, run dead center. What is their aversion to running behind Quentin Nelson?
With a slow backup.
Tell me, what is it?
With a slow backup. I mean, Trey Sermon
but
is
even
slow.
why do they refuse to run behind Quentin Nelson?
I just think and this was the problem with Reich. Shane Steichen, like Reich, it has a great offensive mind. I mean, say what you want about Frank Reich. I thought he had a good offensive mind. I thought he made a lot of chicken salad out of chicken bleep for most of the time that he was here. We all know what happened in 2022. And I think Steichen is the same way. But I think these guys just get laser focused on this is how we're going to do it, and it's going to work. And you keep doing the same thing over and over again. And they're very lucky that didn't cost them the game. That sequence you've got first and goal at the 4, right? And you gain 0 yards on 3 plays. They're very lucky that didn't cost them the game.
Because they refuse to go behind a guy that they're paying $20 million a year for.
Kicking 25-yard field goals get you beat, generally speaking. Maybe not against the Titans, but against most teams, kicking 25-yard field goals get you beat.
Did you watch last night, and we're taping this on Tuesday, did you happen to watch last night any of the New York Jets in Buffalo?
Barely.
Okay.
I watched the very end.
I watched from the late third to the fourth quarter, okay? Derek, it got unwatchable. There were penalties on every single play. It was ridiculous. I mean, after a while, you're like, look, just let the penalties go. I mean, they were calling them on every single neutral zone infraction. Okay, great. I mean, non-stop. It was ridiculous.
Jake, if you weren't invested emotionally as a fan in that, or as a media member you're watching because you have to, that Titans-Colts game, is there any chance under your free will you would have watched that game? I mean, the Titans had 2 16-play field goal drives. 16 plays. They ran 16 plays, and they didn't get into the red zone. And they ran 16 plays. I mean, it was, to call it a rock fight is an insult to rock fights.
Okay, which leads to this point. And I don't want this to be the case. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm going to ask a question that it's not good business for me to ask it, but I'm going to anyway. Are the Colts boring?
Yeah, I mean, how about this? This will insult people even more. Is the NFL product boring? I think more often than not, yeah. I mean, you still have exciting games and great games, and you still have fireworks like what we saw in Dallas with Detroit. Or I guess the Bucs hung 52 on the Saints. I didn't watch a single second of that game, but 52
Who's the Saints
crazy.
quarterback without Derek Carr?
I don't even know who their backup is. Do you know?
No, I don't. Do you want to guess?
It was Ian Book for a little while.
Who are
Notre Dame?
Who are decent guesses on like who's the perfect name? It's like yes, that could be it. Because Huntley's in Miami, right? So it can't be that.
Oh yeah, okay.
Brissett is back in New England, right?
What was
so
that guy's name?
him.
Ryan Lindley or whatever? Wasn't he the backup for like 10 different NFL teams?
Who are the like 3 brothers that always are like that are constantly working themselves around as backup quarterbacks? I was thinking of the
Heward family.
The Hewards are a good call.
Like Brock and Damon and a couple of others, but they're all since.
No, not the who are the brothers? Not the like in the same realm as.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Now I can't think of it. Yeah.
Oh, man, hold on.
Let's look it up here. Saints depth chart. Because I don't know. Maybe
or it's going to be some. Okay, here we go. I'll go with
McCowns. There we go. Yes, Josh McCown.
Yeah, Josh McCown. Yeah,
all the McCowns.
That was one that I would have guessed.
Oh wow, this is a guy who was the next big thing, and it never materialized for him in college. Like Heisman front runner. Oh my God, you got to watch this guy. Must see TV. Very recent.
Big time program.
And then transferred to a lesser program. But also in a big-time league. Sorry, that's probably not going to help you.
Not DJ Uyunglele, because
no,
he's still
but
in college.
that type where it was like, oh, my God, like for like 2 weeks. And then you watched him play and you were like, maybe not.
Give me the school where he started.
Oklahoma.
Spencer Rattler.
Yep. That's their backup.
He was okay at South Carolina.
Yeah, he was fine, but he wasn't like, remember, he was supposed to be like the next like post Trevor Lawrence, even though he obviously a very different style, but like the next like Johnny Manziel type. Right. And 243, a tud, 2 picks, QBR's 27.9. That's what we got so far.
Is
for
QBR
Spencer Rattler.
different than quarterback rating?
Yeah, that's like the ESPN metric that.
Okay. At any rate, let's get to aspects of the Colts that actually were positive, Derek. A win is positive, right?
Yeah.
The Michael Pittman Jr. and Josh Downs played really well. Josh Downs was really good. Also, at the backup running back position when Jonathan Taylor's not out there, I do like what Tyler Goodson brings to the table. I think he run. I mean, I know that outside of one big run, his runs were rather pedestrian, but he gives you a little bit of flexibility of coming out of the backfield and catching the ball. Nothing against Trey Sermon, but I think he needs to get more carries when Jonathan Taylor's not there. Bottom line is Taylor's the guy that you're going to have as your bell cow when he's available, They do, with Joe Flacco, mix the ball around a little bit more than with Richardson. I mean, he sees and gets the tight ends a little bit more involved. And then defensively, hard to say because Will Levis is, basically incompetent. But
they bucked up when they had to.
Zaire Franklin had a good game and made stops for them. And Julian Blackmon had a very athletic pick. So, there were things that you could say,
Yeah, I thought the corners did okay. Rush defense-wise, they weren't great, and that's still a struggle. But,
which is weird.
And they won. Like, again, if they beat the Dolphins, they'll be 4-3 at the turn. The schedule shifts right there, but you're 4-3 heading into at Houston, at Minnesota, Buffalo, at the Jets, and the Lions. They'll be lucky to win 2 of those, especially if they still stay banged up. But you've given yourself a chance. If you're 2-5 entering that stretch, you're screwed. Your season's over.
Right.
And I would go as far as to say that if the Colts would have lost to Tennessee, they'd be 0-3 in the division, right? At that point, I mean, that would have been big trouble.
I mean, you got to stay within striking distance of – although I shouldn't say that. I mean, at this point, you just –
No, you're not going to win the division.
You kind of let Houston have the division,
but
right?
you have to take care of the games. But this was the Bears game to me.
Derek,
this was the Bears game all over again.
The best thing going for the Colts, Tua, out.
Yeah.
Right? Burrow taking a while to get going here. The Jets, is Aaron Rodgers still having?
Best thing for the Colts is that the AFC has to field 7 playoff teams.
Yeah,
they are required by law to put in 7 playoff teams, and that's the best thing that is going for the Colts right now. Ready for our Love That Play?
Sure.
See, we're switching it up this week. I know we usually do Hoagies first segment. We're going to do Hoagies. We'll lead off the second
Chris
segment.
Love called me yesterday when I was at the Pacer game, and I have yet to call him back. Should I see what he needed?
Chris Love and Phil Sanchez got into a discussion about the mayor of New York City wearing a split Yankees-Mets hat.
Oh, really?
And Phil didn't like it because he's a big Mets fan, and the Mets hate the Yankees. And I don't hate the Mets, but I
Chris
dislike
is a Yankees
the Mets.
fan.
Yeah, and he was defending it. So I don't know. Maybe that's what that was about. Have you ever seen a walk-off punt before?
A walk-off punt?
Yeah. I think we saw a walk-off punt on Sunday.
Oh,
that Rigoberto Sanchez is our Love That Play, 353-2141, love-hvac.com. This is the time of year, right? Cool heat, cool heat, cool heat, cool heat.
Actually, I'm both cool and heat, right?
I'm just sexy. You can't get any sexy blowing through your
cool,
HVAC unit.
Cool, heat, right?
That was weird.
Well, it's true.
That gave me a chill. I now need
guys.
Love heat.
Guys think I'm cool, and women think I'm heat.
That sent a chill.
Bottom line, isn't that right?
Creepy.
Guys think I'm cool. Women think I'm heat.
If you need your furnace serviced, do it now because you're going to be running that baby a lot more here in the coming weeks, and then obviously into the winter months. I know you get depressed this time of year because it starts getting dark earlier and all of that. But cheer yourself up with our friends at Love Heating and Cooling, 353-2141, love-hvac.com.
A little slower.
353-2141.
Thank you.
Love-hvac.com.
Thank you.
That Sanchez punt, 60 yards, and just plops it at the 3. He had 5 other punts that day, netted a bunch of great yards. I mean, statistically, he had a great day, but he's a weapon. I've always been impressed by the Colts' consistency at that position. Where you go from, Ron Stark and then Hunter Smith and then McAfee and then now Rigo. They've had a lot of stability there with a lot of guys that are Pro Bowl level, top 5 to 10 level punters, and Sanchez is definitely there. But, I mean, that punt, if he shanks it or something and it goes out at the Tennessee 30, they got a chance. All they need is a field goal. I mean, it effectively ended the game. At the 3-yard line with 12 seconds and no timeouts, you have no chance. You've got to do that. It was whatever they
punt.
did, right?
Perfect punt, yeah.
Just a great play, and I wanted to give him his flowers because I don't think in the history of doing Love That Play, going back to the radio days, I don't think we've ever chosen a punt.
Yeah, that's fair.
It was a hell of a punt. And the Michael Pittman touchdown catch was the other one that was the first runner-up.
You know my favorite stat about Rigoberto Sanchez? Said he played collegiately in Hawaii. I think it's cool.
I mean, there have been other guys that played in the NFL.
No, I know.
Played collegiately
but I just think it's cool that he played in Hawaii.
Yeah.
It'd be a cool place to go.
My favorite factoid about that was that University of Hawaii had to start being more selective with who they chose for visits because a
Oh,
lot of times
can you imagine?
kids,
Of course.
in the 90s especially, were just taking visits out there knowing that they weren't going to choose Hawaii.
Yeah, of course.
Just to say, I got to visit
Think
Hawaii.
about, Derek, we've talked about this before, but think about if you played Hawaii every single road trip you take.
Yeah.
It's minimum 6-hour flight every single time.
Well, and nowadays, think about if you play at UCLA and you've got a volleyball game at Rutgers.
Yeah, I mean,
It's getting a little ridiculous, too. I know Hawaii's its own animal, but
yeah.
because Hawaii feels like it's just its own place. Everything's more expensive. It's just different.
you been
I
to
know it's
Hawaii?
the United States, but it's just
Have
different.
you been there?
No,
Oh, it's great.
but I just know that it's different.
Looks like the photos.
That's what I heard. That's going to be our last state for James when we're at 49, when he graduates high school.
Last
we're going to
state
go Hawaii.
or date?
Last state. So that'll be the 50 of 50. We're going to save Hawaii for the very end.
He's gonna have been to all 50 states by then?
We're going to try. We're up to 23
For
so
him?
We're almost halfway there. Yeah,
Wow, okay.
yeah. I mean, now we're getting to the difficult portion. Like, how do I get to South Dakota?
Well, you drive there. You just go up 74,
Here-
and then you get to 80.
I have a wife that has a maximum drive time of 4 hours.
Well, it's only from
That is the maximum drive time of her tolerance.
11 hours. It's a 12-hour drive.
Yeah, so that's
So
triple
3
what
stops.
her
Okay.
time is. So I got to figure out how to get there. But 353-2141, love-hvac.com. You never have to worry about figuring out your heating and cooling unit. We come back. Hoagie Hero of the Week, college football,
Beer to drink?
college basketball polls are out.
Yeah, how about
Talk
that?
about that as well. And a guy who I was convinced I really didn't want the Colts to hire this guy. And he got hired somewhere else, and he's been a huge success. And I was wrong. And you know on this show, it's very rare that I'm wrong. So we'll talk about that when we come back as well.
Okay.
It's Corey and Schultz, episode 207, right here on the ISC Sports Network. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC,
Nice snap.
mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back. Bailey and Wood presents Corey and Schultz, ISC Sports Network. He's Jake. I'm Derek. Hi.
Derek, where's area code 207? That sounds familiar to me.
Maine.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's right.
Yeah,
that was
Maine's 207.
I don't think so.
I got a sticker on my car that is the state of Maine with the numbers 207. So, yes, that is the Maine area code.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that the main area code in Maine? there others?
You know, it's a big state. I don't know if they have multiple area codes.
They have to.
Well, they don't have to. I mean, does Wyoming have multiple area codes?
Sure. It's a big
And I know
state.
more people live in Maine than in Wyoming. Should I look that up? Maine area codes.
Maine is expected to be able to issue
Maine's
new phone
only
numbers.
area code, 207.
No, wait a minute. Hold on. As of April, this makes no sense. Oh, okay. They've got to redo another one by 2033. Okay.
Well, it's like, remember a couple of years ago we had to start doing 463, which is so stupid
Yeah.
for Indy because the 317 numbers.
I wouldn't
there
take
was no room at the
463.
end.
I wouldn't take 463.
No. I still have an 812 from my college days. I'm never changing it now. I've had that number for 20-something years. So why would I ever change it? You might want to change your mortgage interest rate.
True.
You might want to change homes. And you need to get that pre-approval for that mortgage. Call our
Bailey
friends
and Wood.
at Bailey and Wood Financial Group,
best.
855-350-HOME, BAWFG.com. I got to check in with Mike because it's Colts-Dolphins week, and I know this week always gives him a lot of stress. He's the biggest Dolphins
You know
fan
he's
that I
heading
know.
down there, right? I'm sure.
Oh, I'm sure he is. And it's tough. Well, it's in Indy, right? Game's
Oh,
at
yeah,
home.
you're right. You're right.
But it's tough right now. Dolphins with the
Foot
Tua
injury.
thing. It does sound like Tua's going to come back this year, but still, you got to wonder long term, man. I don't want to make somebody else's life decisions for him, but my God, how many of those concussions?
Well,
does he have
and
to
like
deal
I
with?
said, Derek, the concern for Tua, for any player, is it does seem like with each concussion he's getting that the level of hit that it is taking for him to become concussed is getting lesser and lesser.
And you're just constantly, whenever I'm watching them, I'm just constantly worried about the next time. It's like with Austin Collie.
Yeah.
Where you're just like, oh my God, when's it going to happen again? It's like this feeling of dread. It's almost like a queasiness.
Yeah.
Watching him play. And again, it's his life. He needs to make decisions for himself, but that's a tough one. Time for our Hoagie and Hero of the Week.
I've been looking forward to this.
First time on this show. This is the Zaire. So this is the cheesesteak. So ribeye. You got wit, right? Yeah,
Yep.
Onion. Did you get Prove or did you get Whiz? I think it looks like you got Prove. Jake picked up this week. But then ketchup and mustard, which normally I would be a hard no for me on a cheesesteak, but it's the Zaire, so I want to try it out.
And the Zaire also puts mayo on it, but I said no mayo. Watch yourself there, Derek. Fabulous.
I mean, look. It's a Hoagies and Hops cheesesteak. So naturally it's going to be good. You could put
You're
literally
about to get mustard all over yourself.
Oh, yeah, jeez. You could literally put anything on this thing, and it would taste delicious. But yellow mustard for me, I'm not opposed to yellow mustard. Yellow mustard belongs on hot dogs, and if I'm, like, dipping a pretzel in it, that's it. Like, yellow mustard has a very, very small window of relevant foods for me. And the ketchup, look, it's a Hoagie's option, right? I'm eating it.
Dude, it's awesome.
But
That's the author of it right there.
I just don't. Ketchup and mustard doesn't do it for me. I'm sorry.
If you like the Colts, then you will love the Zaire because he brings routinely. Has to take them out. Like he has DoorDash bring them to the team. We talked to Nick Cross yesterday. He said, yeah, he brings them. Zaire brings the sandwiches from Hoagies and Hops. Telling you, love it.
I mean, I'm going to eat this whole thing. Don't get me wrong, but I'd rather not have the ketchup and mustard. Also, Oktoberfest, right? German flag. It is our beer from Chili Water Tap Room, 42nd and Boulevard, right next door.
I went Sunday, had a Zaire and an Oktoberfest. Chili Water right there. It's great.
Oh, did you eat
Yeah.
while you picked up? Mm-hmm. So you got 2 cheesesteaks? Mm-hmm. Nice. Oh, that's good. German-style lager. Very, very good.
It's October.
Seasonal. Obviously, for the fall, it's a really good fall beer. So I mentioned this. I want to say this was during the Frank Reich hiring cycle. So go back to 2018, right? Because Pagano held on for the first year of Ballard. I always get tripped up by that because, you think it's hard to remember 2017. That was long ago, and Luck was hurt. Remember, Scott Tolzien started the first game. Right. It was a disaster. So that hiring cycle was originally Josh McDaniels, of course, famously, and then he pulls out at the last second. And I want to say they brought in Dan Campbell for an interview. I'm pretty sure they did. I think he was with Miami, if I'm not mistaken. He was a coordinator or something. And Dan Campbell was advertised as this like old school meathead, run the ball, stop the run, win 17-14 type guy. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is like Chuck Pagano all over again. I don't want this. And I was adamant, do not hire Dan Campbell. And maybe he wouldn't have been a good fit in Indy. I have no idea, and we'll never know, right? Obviously, he's been an amazing fit in Detroit. For the encore of last season, he's proven that it wasn't a fluke. We see NFL flukes all the time.
Right.
Where teams kind of come out of nowhere and have a great season, and you think, oh, God, they've arrived, and then they fall immediately back. Lions are now 4-1 after pummeling Dallas in Dallas, 47. One of the most embarrassing, certainly regular season losses in Cowboys history.
You about to cough again.
Super interesting game next week at the undefeated Vikings, first place NFC North on the line. And I just think Campbell's done an amazing job there, and he deserves some flowers for what he just fits the Detroit mentality, right? We're tougher than you. We don't care that you don't like us. We're just going to go out there and beat your brains in. I like it.
You're about to cough.
No, I'm not. I feel great. Do you have anything that you'd like to say about Dan Campbell, or are you just going to sit there and
The sandwich is awesome.
chomp away? Yeah, I'm going to finish mine too.
Look. Dan Campbell is proof that it doesn't matter when you hire a coach or a GM, whether they win or lose the press conference. he was pretty mocked when he got hired in Detroit because he was not polished at being up there. He looked like a guy that had just been pulled like out of like a high school defensive coordinator position that maybe taught wood shop. And people were like, he's talking about, what was he talking about, biting kneecaps or something like that?
Forgot about that.
And, excuse me, that mentality works in Detroit particularly because he's got that underdog feel. But players bought into him. They bought into him. They buy the energy. Whatever he's selling in the locker room, they're buying. And it's hard. It's hard not to like the Detroit Lions. I mean, everything from last year, the uniforms they wore in the NFC Championship game, to just the story itself and who they represent and the city they represent. I think people, as of right now, we sound great, don't we? As of right now, there is a honeymoon phase with the Detroit Lions in the American sports landscape. Now, Detroit's got to hope that didn't last forever. If you're a Detroit fan, your hope is that
you don't
eventually
want to be the
people.
Cute story, yeah.
Well,
forever.
you want to get tired of you want people to get tired of the Lions because
Yep.
it means that they're around all the time. You remember? I mean, the Atlanta Braves, when they first broke through in the David Justice years, everybody was like, "Oh man, the Braves! They came out of nowhere. They got these new uniforms. They're cool, and everybody's doing the tomahawk chop." And then by the mid '90s, it's like, anybody but the Braves. Same with the Golden State Warriors. Any team, right? And that's what you want if you're Detroit, is you want people to get tired of them. But it doesn't look like they're going away.
And they've had a lot of other things going. Look, they've drafted really well. The Stafford Goff trade worked out because it was time to move on from Stafford, and you get Goff in, and he's really hit the ground running and been a great fit for Detroit as well. So you've had a lot of other things besides just the Dan Campbell hire go well, but I think it kind of starts there. That was the building block.
That sandwich is amazing.
That built it all up. Hoagies and Hops celebrating 9 years in business later this month, October 29th. So we're taping this right now on Tuesday morning, the 15th. So 2 weeks from today when we're taping it, they're going to be hosting a fundraiser for Girls Inc. of Indiana. 10% of food and beer sales will be donated. And also this entire month of October, they're donating 100% of their Nan's potato salad proceeds. So if you get Christina's Nan's potato salad, homemade recipe, if you order that at Hoagies and Hops, all of that money goes to the IU Cancer Center and their research to end multiple myeloma. So pretty cool. Christina's always giving back and doing stuff like that. But the 9 year, it'll be almost a decade, which is crazy. And Christina's been with us for 3 of those years.
Derek, I was in there Sunday. It was packed.
Yeah.
I mean, people are in there watching games, and they got games on, and the getting the sandwiches, and
there awesome. Is no downtime for them. No. I swear, every time I'm in there, 24/7, 365. There are people in there eating, ordering, drinking, having a great time. We come back, quick hits. I feel like there was another thing that I was going to touch on, but
the Pacers?
It's not in my notes. Well, I went last night. We could talk a little bit about that. They're a week away from opening.
I know.
Because their season opener is
something
Tuesday.
Happened last night at the Pacer game that I thought of as a finality. I saw something and I said, they're right there. That's the convincing I need.
And then IU Indy Jags report. So we still got plenty to get to. It's Corey and Schultz rolling along here, episode 207 on ISC.
At base.
Welcome back. It's Corey and Schultz. Was I supposed to take it?
I guess.
Okay. Yeah, you take the last segment. You always do the very last one. Thanks so much for joining us, whether you're watching on YouTube or Facebook or Twitch. We still have a Twitch channel. Podcast, just listening to us so you can't see us right now.
You remember when Periscope was a thing?
Yeah.
How long did that last?
Year or two, and then it became like Twitter Live, right?
What about Facebook Live? Do people still do that?
Yeah, once YouTube kind of took a hold of that whole realm, I think all of that stuff kind of went away. Obviously, we still do the Twitter Live and all of that. That's the reason why I have the blue check, is because I'm like, I need it to. You have to have that to stream. But yeah, I wish I've been good about forecasting the future a lot. Like obviously I'm very smart, and with it. But one thing that I missed is, you remember when we got let go from the radio show, we had been on YouTube Live for a week. And that was something I was banging the table for starting in 2018. I was like, we got to be live on YouTube. And they kept saying, no, we got to drive people to the radio because you guys are measured on ratings. And so I was like, all right. And then finally they said yes. And then when we finally got that thing up and running, we literally had 5 live shows before they were like, all right, that's it.
And they knew that. I mean,
and they would have known that before. I mean, our main
course.
boss, Brett, would have known that before the holidays. But I can't hold it against them. They were both great, Brett and Mike, and both of them got the axe too.
Yep.
It came for everybody. I mean, the Grim Reaper came for the entire, except for Gunner. Good for Gunner. But everybody else in the building, the Grim Reaper.
Gunner's the last one to leave the light on, right?
I took. We actually did a quick fall break trip to Louisville, so we went overnight, did Slugger Museum and this Kentucky Science Center and all that. But then we went to the Pacers game last night to see Zach Edey, basically.
Okay. And I have a thought on Zach Edey.
Okay.
I'm a little embarrassed that I had not thought of this before. But it hit me last night as I was watching Zach Edey, who is going to be a good player in the NBA. Period. People that say, oh, he's just tall. No. 2 things. Number one, watching Zach Edey last night, the one thing that dawned on me as I was watching him, and I watched pretty closely, he is more athletic and gets up and down the floor with a much better pace than people give him credit.
Yeah.
I think people thought that he would be like this lumbering AC Earl, Mark Eaton type. Not the case.
Yeah, I thought it was Isaac Haas, basically.
He's
right?
running
Yeah.
at the same pace a lot of times as those on the floor. But one thing that I realized, Derek, one of the big thoughts against Zach Edey was he's not going to be a good NBA player because he doesn't have the lateral quickness to guard the quick bigs and wings at the NBA level. And I noticed something last night. The Pacers at one point had, I believe it was Isaiah Jackson, who was a quick step player.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Athlete.
So the Pacers thought, okay, we're going to take advantage of Zach Edey by getting Isaiah Jackson out on the wing where he's going to blow right around Zach Edey. I'm embarrassed that I never thought of this. When Michael Jordan was shut down by Indiana in the 84 regionals, Bob Knight's game plan when he came out was he brought the tape out and he said, here's what we're going to do. We're not going to get within 5 feet of this guy. Because at that point, Michael Jordan had yet to develop a jump shot consistently. And Michael Jordan's first step would allow him to get around anybody. So Indiana basically said, we're going to stand 5 feet away from him and just ask him to shoot. And when he starts to make a move, he's not going to blow around us because we're 5 feet away from him.
Yeah, you give yourself a cushion.
Edey, because of his length, and I know that that's a buzzword, right? But his arm is – I was watching him guarding Isaiah Jackson. And Isaiah Jackson's got the ball, and he's looking to make a quick juke move to get around Zach Edey because he can't get through him. Mm-hmm. Edey's standing 3 feet away from him, but still has a hand in his face. Because he's so big, he's able to stand off the offensive player to give himself the makeup of lack of lateral quickness because the player has to then determine which way he's going, and then Edey just has to slide one way or the other. But that player still can't hit an open shot because Edey just puts his arm all the way out. And I'm thinking to myself, he's negated now this area where you're trying to take advantage of him. You can't at 18 feet. Then you try to go down on the block against him, and Memphis's players clearly were avoiding the lane when Zach Edey was on the floor defensively. He is a game-changing player. Game-changing maybe is the wrong word because I don't know that he's going to play 40 minutes. But when he's on the floor, he alters what you try to do.
No, for sure. And the first play, his first defensive possession, Miles Turner hit kind of a step back. And it's just a play where great offense beats great defense. It was nothing that Edey did wrong or nothing where he had some sort of a void that he couldn't fill. It's just Miles Turner made a play. So I agree. And I think Memphis has been a great fit for him.
Yeah.
Right? And they really wanted him. It wasn't a team that was just like, yeah, I guess we'll draft this guy. Like Memphis drafted Zach Edey with an idea in mind, how they were going to use him and how they were going to play him, and he's going to play significantly. And, if there are still Zach Edey detractors now, there's just nothing that you can really –
well, I mean,
there's nothing you could really say.
He had one play last night against the Pacers where he got the ball in the low block. It was Isaiah Jackson guarding him. He puts the ball on the ground and he backs him up. He gets the ball outside the lane. He backs him up, and then he turns around and literally hammer dunks it through. And the guy in front of us turns around literally and says, I could do that too if I'm 7'4".
Yeah.
Well, you're not.
There's nothing you can do.
You're not.
Yeah. I mean, it's the same. A lot of times, it's the same IU people that are freaking out every time Trace Jackson Davis hits a layup. You know what I mean? It's sometimes you're just looking at it through the prism that you're looking at it in. But honestly, Jake, I mean, at the end of Zach Edey's college career, like even people that I respect, like college people that watch a lot of college basketball, even people that watch college basketball more than me, I mean, they had brainworms about him. Like they really thought that like, oh, the NCAA officiating is out to get every team and this guy gets officiated differently, and that's why, I mean, people had brainworms about it, and once those worms start eating your brain cells, it's hard to recover. Sorry to be graphic.
I wouldn't want any worms eating my brain, but
let's get into our quick hits. This happened obviously several days ago, but this is the first time we've been able to react to it. That group of these great tennis players, men's tennis players, is now down to one, with Rafa calling it a career. 38 years old, 22 Grand Slams, 14 French Opens.
I always thought he was cool.
Oh, he's super cool and super fun to watch. Has been hampered by injuries a lot in recent years. He's going to play the Davis Cup in the Netherlands. I don't know, somewhere overseas in November, and that'll be it. But, you know, Fed said goodbye, called it a career in 22 or whenever that was. Andy Murray, not that Andy Murray belongs on this tier, but still a great tennis player, right?
Andy Murray's the Phillip Rivers of the group, right?
Yeah. Djokovic is still the only one that's kind of left standing from that group. And, you know, gun to my head, and maybe injuries change this, I think I'd put – and this is almost impossible to do because we're talking about the three greatest tennis players of all time, probably, right? Djokovic, Federer, and Nadal. I'd probably put him third.
Which one?
Rafa, just because so much of his dominance, not he won all of them, right? But so much of his dominance was based on just the clay courts and the French. But that's really hard to do. I mean, you can, if you want to make an argument that Rafa's won, I think you could do that. I think you can make an argument that Fed's. I mean, any of those guys, they're unbelievable, and we're lucky. You know, I wish one of them was American, but we're lucky that
it kind of feels to me
to have witnessed all three of them.
It feels to me like Djokovic and Nadal, no particular order. Djokovic and Federer, no particular order, Brady Manning, and then Nadal is Breeze.
Yeah,
like still has like a ton. You know, he has the big record, the individual record, and won a Super Bowl and is up there with them. But those two seem to me to be, and I love Nadal.
I mean, and full disclosure, you and I are very much like Grand Slam watching. That's it, tennis, right? Like, novice tennis people. But I still think I think you can make an argument that Nadal's number one. I'm not going to make that argument, but I think you could do that.
You know,
like that's how good I think all three of these guys are.
I was driving the other day on the north side, and I was coming up Westfield, and North Central's doing all kinds of renovation. So I wanted to kind of skirt traffic anyway, so I thought I'd cut through like where North Central is, and I was driving along the road of the North Central campus by where the tennis center is. And I spent a lot of time there in my earlier years because North Central tennis was such a huge deal.
Yeah.
And the North Central Carmel tennis and all that, and they've redone all of that. And there's like 40 tennis courts, state-of-the-art, beautiful. And then there's the row of bricks with like alumni names and all that, and I have a brick there.
Cool.
Yeah. So I found my brick.
You know what? Good for all the, excuse me. We'll get that in post, Vince. 3, 2, 1. You know what? Good for all the IPS schools. Like the Lawrence schools got a big makeover too. Like if you go by LC or LN, they've got big new renovations. I think Warren did, if I'm not mistaken, and obviously North Central getting a bunch of stuff. I don't know if Ben Davis was part of that group.
Those aren't IPS schools, but yes.
No, but I mean public schools. Sorry,
township schools.
Because we talk a lot about Cathedral and the privates and all of that, and it's nice to see those other schools get some get a little bit of a facelift.
By the way, speaking of local schools and athletics, Derek, do we have more quick hits before we get to the IU?
I'll just do real quick. Kansas, Alabama, UConn in that order, top the first hoops poll. Kansas is always preseason number one, right?
Yeah.
Are they ever not? Purdue number 14, IU number 17. Rutgers is the only other ranked Big Ten team at 25. It would be cool to see both IU and Purdue be good because really I was going back this century. The only really 3 years that both teams were good, 08, Baby Boilers and Eric Gordon, and we know what happened at the end of that IU season. 16, IU wins the Big Ten, and that was like the Vince Edwards, Dakota Mathias, that was a top 20 Purdue team. And then 23, right? Trace Jackson Davis and Edey. the second year for Woodson. Those are really the only 3 times that both teams, I think, have been good teams.
I mean, it's fun when they're both ranked and they're playing.
Yeah, for sure.
Atop the Big Ten.
And then there was a woman from China who pleaded guilty on Friday to smuggling 29 eastern box turtles over a Vermont lake into Canada. But that was it for quick hits. So go ahead.
What was she doing with the turtles?
They sell for a G each on the open market, black market, box turtles.
For what? For meat or what?
Everything. The shell, just companionship.
Are they like endangered?
Not that I know of. No. The woman was arrested at an Airbnb in Canada. She tried to take the 29 box turtles across a Vermont lake by kayak. Agents searched her heavy duffel bag, and they found the 29 live turtles individually wrapped in socks.
They weren't in boxes?
They weren't in boxes. The box turtles were not in boxes. They were in socks.
Are you not allowed to, I mean, who owns them?
I don't know if she stole them or what. Royal Canadian Mounted Police, though, were the ones.
So now we got horses involved.
That were able to do it.
Right?
I went to Ashley's godparents live on a lake that's right on the Canadian border in Vermont. Northeast Kingdom is what they call it. It's really cool. I mean, it is, when you talk about the middle of nowhere, man, that is the middle of freaking nowhere. I'm shocked that any cops found it. We didn't see a human being the entire time we were there.
So you swim to the other side of the lake and you're in Canada?
Yeah, you can. At least on this lake that I was on, it was called Lake Averill. They called it the pond, the Great Averill Pond.
Here's the thing that not to get into a totally different hornet's nest, but like people that talk about the United States border, and I'm like, have you seen the Canadian border?
Yeah. Even from the road, it was like this little
none.
toll booth gas station attendant looking thing and a little, like a parking garage arm.
Derek, if you go to like North Dakota, the border patrol is like a barbed wire fence and a sheep.
And that was it, yeah.
I mean,
and
literally.
You got to show the sheep ID, but yeah,
right.
the sheep that meh, waves you in with its hoof.
If you have to go, if he doesn't let you in, what does he say? Just back up.
Oh, okay. All right, yeah. All right, that was.
Thank you.
IU Indy Jags report. Let's go.
It is time, in fact, for our IU Indy Jags report. Keep in mind, when it comes to IU Indy, you are getting Division I athletics right here in the city. You're talking oftentimes local products, but more so and more importantly, Division I affordable, outstanding action in a variety of different sports right here in central Indiana. I don't know if I can put the Jaguar right there and if it blocks. Greg, does that do anything to the microphone? Okay. All right, so roll the tape. Let's show you what happened with men's soccer to begin with for the IU Indy Jags over the course of the last week. Scoreless draw against Butler last week. Declan Finnegan continues his superlative play, by the way. He did get a shutout. He also had 10 saves, 10 in goal. They lost 2-1 on the road at Cleveland State. Christian Nielsen had his first career goal. Congratulations. They are at Bellarmine on Tuesday this week and then Saturday. So coming up Saturday against Northern Kentucky, 2 o'clock is where IU Indy, the men's soccer program, will be in action. There is the women's soccer team you're taking a look at. They got a win against Green Bay, 4-1 over the course of the week. Hannah Roberson had a pair of goals. And then Emma Fry had not one but two SportsCenter top 10 plays. That's right. Not one but two SportsCenter top 10 plays. The Jags did drop 2-1, by the way, to Northern Kentucky, but pretty cool to be featured twice within the same week. So good job to Emma Fry, and then Emma making it again for the SportsCenter recognition you see right there. Sunday, 1 o'clock against Milwaukee is when the women's soccer team are back in action. It's, by the way, you can get a dog ticket for that game. Volleyball swept Robert Morris 3-2 and 3-love. Elle Patterson had 17 kills, 47 total kills for the Jags over the course of that game. Maya Long had 13 of them on Saturday. They are on the road for Youngstown State coming up this week, and then they are at home on the 29th taking on Fort Wayne. Don't forget, November 4th, men's basketball gets underway for IU Indy. All of this, of course, is available. Tickets for all of the activities that we've talked about at iuindyjags.com/tickets. That's iuindyjags.com/tickets. And I know that we prioritize and talk just as a culture about men's basketball and women's basketball, but keep in mind all those other sports that are doing great things.
Oh, yeah.
Men's and women's soccer, volleyball. If you have a young person that's interested in sports beyond just the traditional Frontline Sports, then IU Indy is your place to be able to see all of it.
It always
Great
sneaks
value.
up on me, the fact that basketball, NBA is a week away, college hoops is like 2 weeks. It's just wild.
It is.
It always sneaks up on me. Like I feel like I'm not ready,
November
even though
4th,
I'm
home
very,
opener.
very ready. Thanks to our friends at IU Indy Athletics for that. We come back, we'll wrap up Chateau Kitchen's Bide or Bull Bleep, and we will bid you adieu. It's Query and Schultz, ISC Sports Network.
Hey, AC, which games are we going to tonight?
You know we cover all sports in Central Indiana. Hop in. It's going to be a long night.
Bailey and Wood Mortgage Lender, proud partner of News 8 Sports Hummer.
Hey, AC,
Nice snap.
mortgage is a snap. Duh.
Bailey and Wood, a lending hand for Wish TV Sports.
Welcome back to Query and Schultz on the ISC Sports Network. My name is Jake Query. That is Derek Schultz. It is episode 207. That is the main area code. What's 208, Derek?
I don't know. 202 is DC. 206 is Seattle. 203 is Connecticut. 201, I feel like, is somewhere prominent. But I don't know what 208 is. You want me to look it up? We only have 3 minutes left on the show.
208 is kind of exciting.
Yeah, what is it?
It's an up and coming growing area.
Idaho, cool.
Boise.
Yeah,
Boise,
secret's
Idaho.
out about Idaho. I got a buddy in L.A., and he said everybody's going to Idaho, man.
People in Idaho.
And when they have work in L.A., they just fly back. Isn't that crazy?
People in Idaho hate California.
Oh, yeah, all my my buddy Stolman works in TV, and he says everybody in TV lives in Idaho, and then if they have contract, they're all on contracts, they fly back and they do shoots, wherever. But it's so much cheaper for them to live in Idaho than it is in Los Angeles.
Jersey and bordering New York is 201.
I've never heard that before, and I'm very familiar with that area. That was usually 908 because Megan had a 908 area code. Some in New
Megan.
Jersey. Yeah. Chateau Kitchens and ChateauKitchens.com, my
Is
ex-girlfriend.
that Blondie gal?
No. At Chateau Kitchens on Instagram and Facebook. Beautiful before and after pictures. Anything on the interior of your home, Chateau Kitchens can make gorgeous. Statement one. The Colts are a playoff team this season. Buy it or bull bleep.
Yeah, buy it.
Me too. Hop on the train. Let's go. You know what? Honestly, 9-8 gets you in.
I know.
think 9-8 gets you in. I think 8-9 might get you in.
Yeah.
I know sometimes we were a little ahead of the horses there. No pun intended. But yeah, I think all you have to be is average. And I think this is, especially fully healthy, I think it's an average team. Which sounds stupid, right, with what we were saying at the beginning of the season. I mean, I thought this was going to be a really big season. And whether it be injuries or just Richardson, just in general, it's doesn't appear it's going to be that way. How about this? Coming off Penn State's win, 3 Big Ten teams will make the playoff. Buy it or bull bleep. I mean,
I buy that, but I'm not sure Penn State's one of them.
I think that was a really big win for Oregon. Oregon, obviously it was a big win for Oregon, right? They beat the number 2 team in the country, but I think Oregon kind of has a rap for falling in games
Right,
like that.
I would agree with that.
And now Ohio State kind of has that with Ryan Day, right?
Yeah, but to me, the Ohio State-Oregon game is just kind of like one cancels the other out.
Oh, okay.
Like whatever,
Yeah.
right?
But Penn State
they
winning
went-
at USC, I think, does them a huge favor.
Yeah, but Penn State, we do this every year. Penn State, everybody gets excited going into Ohio State.
And they're going to go 10-2.
They're going to be up 17-3 in the
They're
third
10-2.
quarter on Ohio State and then lose
I hear you.
24-17.
I hear you. Statement 3, Derek Schultz is the only one that would care about a Yankees-Mets World Series. Buy it or bull bleep.
100% correct. 100% correct.
I put that one in for you. They are great sponsors this week on the show. Bailey and Wood Financial.
Spent it all
Group.
week with Joe Capiano and Sons.
Chateau
What
Kitchens.
the hell are we doing here?
Hoagies and Hops.
2 weeks I leave for my
And
vacation.
Chili
2 weeks.
Hunter Brewing and Love Heating and Cooling. And our friends at IU Indy Athletics. I made it to the end of the show before having a coffee. Okay, bye. I got a cough drop.
At Bailey and Wood.